Hi guys. So to look here. so just gonna finish the last chapter I was on. I didn't finish it. Okay, so when they saw Pierce coming, they moved only slightly, as if they couldn't have cared less. Pierce tapped on the glass. "Hey!" he exclaimed through the pain, lifting his shoulders and gesturing with his hands. "What's going on?" "We're waiting outside," he continued. A driving other Indian standing with him came around to the wall to where Pierce stood. "We're trying to find your hotel, sir. We are not sure where it is exactly," the strange-looking man said. The driver said he knew, Pierce replied. The driver put his head down and turned slightly as if embarrassed. Pierce thought he'd wait a minute more to see what was happening. He could see the other guy at the desk still on the phone. It was then that he began to suspect something terrible was going to happen. If not already, to Jada and Trey. He pictured them being kidnapped. "What the fuck?" he yelled at them, turned and ran toward the front door. How could I have been so naive? He said to himself. He looked through the glass at the taxi. It was still there at least. But he couldn't see if they were inside. Just as he was about to open the door, the strange Indian man asked if he had the number of the hotel. "I do not. It's called Ginger. That's all I know." "Okay, sir, we shall try to find the number," he replied sheepishly. Pierce looked at the office, then at the clothes of the Indian man, squinted, and then left through the door, ran down the stairs to the taxi and opened the door. "You're here?" "Yes, what's taking so long?" Jada replied, feeling left out of the loop. "Not sure, but I'm feeling a little creeped out right now. I've heard of how people are kidnapped in India and I don't like this at all. They say that they don't know where the hotel is, but I think it's all a ploy to waste time." "What are we going to do?" "Well, I'm not leaving you two here, that's for sure," Pierce said as he got in the taxi and slammed the door closed. The Indians couldn't ignore that he was pissed off by now and would be careful with what they did. Pierce wasn't a brute of a man, but he wasn't small either. Jada held Trey close. Pierce was rubbing his forehead, trying to think of what they could do next. They were in the middle of nowhere. Didn't have a clue how they got there, and didn't know anybody. "Let's just give them another minute and then I think we should run," Pierce said to Jada. She nodded and clutched onto her bag. Chapter 3. They sat in the back of the taxi, its worn smell and powdery seats moving in on them like a crowd of naysayers breaking down your willpower. Pierce began to bite the skin around his fingernails, his breathing pronounced. The glass door of the rundown building opened and the taxi driver appeared. He came down the stairs and got in the taxi without saying a word, started the car and took off. Pierce and Jada looked at each other. Pierce took his fingers out of his mouth and pushed down on the seat. "You know where you're going now?" he asked. "Yes, now I think I know," he answered, his beady eyes squinting in the rear vision mirror. "Good." The taxi turned out of the Forum the same way it came in, then a left down a crowded and narrow street. Pierce felt a little better now that they were moving, but he still felt defensive on the alert. At least now they weren't cornered in a quiet dead end. Another 10 minutes of random turns and distracting silence, and the taxi slowed down as the driver wound down his window and spoke to a fellow. It seemed as he was asking directions from the gestures the scruffy bystander gave. Again the car pulled away and followed a series of wooden boards that looked like a temporary fence. They could see a building that may have looked like a hotel, but by this time they could only hope. Their disorientation clouded their judgment. "Look, that's it. We're here," Jada pointed at the sign of the Ginger Hotel. "Great," Pierce acknowledged. Pierce hopped out immediately when the car pulled behind two other taxis. There were two armed guards talking to to the other drivers. The guards approached the taxi first, talking with the driver and then approaching Pierce. "Where are you going, sir?" one of the armed guards asked. "We have a reservation at the hotel," Pierce answered, gesturing toward the entrance to the hotel that was defended by a small toll booth and wire fence. "Okay, sir," the guard said, his face warming with a smile as he looked Pierce up and down. Pierce turned toward the driver. "We need our bags," he said impatiently, feeling the pressure release of the stressful car ride. "It will be 100 rupees more than for the ride, sir," the driver exerting his will without hesitation. "Are you kidding?" Pierce exclaimed. "It was not a question." "It's not a question." "No, sir, it's true. I had to drive out of my way. It took me much more time, and I should not be making money from this trip if you do not pay 100 rupees more. You take us out of our way. You get lost and scare us, and then finally finding the hotel, and you want us to pay you more? I don't think so." Pierce moved closer to the driver, his body hovering above the scrawny but wiry taxi driver. "I think you should be paying us, not we you." Pierce pointed to his chest. The guards, noticing Pierce's tone, came back over and stood by. "Talk with him," Pierce exclaimed to the guard, turning away. "It's okay, Pierce, it's not much money for us," Jada said, trying to calm him down. "It's not the point." The guards listened to the driver, pleaded his case, turned toward Pierce and pleaded empathetically for the driver. "It seems that he got lost and he had to go out of his way, sir, and requires more money," he explained. "I know what he wants," Pierce raised his voice, "but we had paid for the trip from the airport. We had a prepaid ticket." The gun-wielding Indian turned toward the driver and requested the fare ticket. The driver pulled it from his chest pocket and showed him. He then said something in Hindi to the driver. The driver followed with a plea and a shrug of his shoulders, his head moving side to side. The guard turned toward Pierce and his expression said it all. There was nothing he could do. "Listen, I'll give you 50 rupees, not 1 cent more, and only because I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt." Pierce looked him in the eye, took the cash out and counted the money so the guard could see it. "Before I give it to you, please open the boot," Pierce demanded. The driver looked at him, realising that he wasn't fooling around, and nodded his head from side to side comically. He opened the boot and pulled the bags out. Pierce knew that the man had planned it all along, and getting 50 rupees more was a win anyway. But he decided to chalk it down to experience and would learn from it the next time. The hotel guards hadn't thought much of the situation. It was clear that they had dealt with much worse conflicts before, it being just another aspect of their tedious jobs. Jada smiled to the guards to say thank you, and the three of them passed through the gate after Pierce and Trey were patted down for weapons. They laughed as the more serious of the two pulled his machine gun toward his back and frisked him, then waving them through. Chapter 4. "You haven't said much, Half Pint. What's wrong?" Trey looked at Pierce, realising he was talking to him. "What's a half pint?" "It's an English measurement of a beer. You can order a pint or a half pint, like you." "I like this hotel," Trey said, ignoring the insult. "It's great, clean, modern, and not what I would have expected in India," Trader replied. Pierce was having a look through the small but adequate room. "Hey, look, have you noticed that everything is made by Tata?" he said as he turned over the tea bags. "What do you mean?" Trey replied. "Well, the air conditioner, the tea, the blankets, stuff in the bathroom. I bet that this hotel is owned by them as well. I've never heard of them in the US." Pierce slipped his shoes off and slumped down on the bed. Trey sat at the next table to Jada. "Who's hungry?" "I am." "Me too." Jada got up and went to the bathroom to wash her face. Then she came out of the bathroom. She looked at Pierce on the bed. "You haven't had a cigarette for a while." Pierce's face contorted in surprise. "You're right." He rolled his eyes and put his hands behind his head. "You know, I don't feel like leaving the hotel after that taxi ride. There's a restaurant in the foyer. Why don't we go there?" "Sure, sounds good. Then we can go get some sleep." They left the room and found the elevator through the labyrinth of corridors. The elevator opened up at the ground floor. 3 Indians waited to get in as they exited. The door closed behind them. Good to see Indians in their own hotel, Pierce commented. The restaurant was mostly empty except for one man at the far end and a lady with her son. She was scolding him for not finishing his meal. On one wall sat a giant flat-screen TV playing continuous Hindi music videos. As the room was just a square space, quiet, sparse and a low ceiling, the sounds echoed through the room. They were greeted by a man wearing a bow tie, shirt and pants. He stood behind a desk that looked a little like a lectern perched next to the stairs that led into the restaurant. Besides his initial good afternoon, he paid them no attention, going back to counting money from the till. They walked through to the far wall where they could see a glass display cabinet that stretched from one side of the room to the other. As they gawked at the odd displays of food, there were 3 chefs appeared, white hats and uniforms. They waited patiently, not saying a word. "Hi," Pierce said to one of them, who happened to be close to him as he looked up from the glass. His finger pointed. "Good afternoon, sir," the chef sprang forth enthusiastically. "May I have some of this?" "Of course, but we have a menu if you'd like. A boy will bring it to you." "Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure." He motioned for them to take a seat. Jada and Trey followed suit, finding a table near the middle of the restaurant where they could see the television. As soon as they were seated, a waiter appeared, graciously passing them 3 menus, scurrying off and returning with cutlery and napkins. "Would you like some water, sir?" he appealed to Pierce, not asking the others. "Yes, thanks. That would be great." Again he disappeared and returned with a jug of water and 3 glasses, placing the glasses down and pouring. The menu was extensive. Dal, curries, tandoori, roti, chicken, etc. "I'll have chicken," Pierce said, dropping the menu. "Me too," said Trey, realising that it's about the only thing he could recognise. Jada knew Indian food well. "I'm going to have some dal, chicken tikka and some bread." "Okay, sounds good," Pierce replied. "And Coke," Trey added. The waiter returned with pad and pencil in hand, took their order and departed for the kitchen to appear to the kitchen. Little by little, over the next 5 minutes or so, food started to appear until all that had been ordered was on the table. The waiter was very dedicated to them as he went to refill the water glasses, but they were still full. The 3 Coke bottles were half empty. "Don't eat any of the salad or drink the water," Pierce instructed. "Why?" "But you said you wanted water," to the waiter, Trey asked, thinking that maybe India was some magical place that worked in reverse. "Not safe, I was just being polite." "You mean because the drinking water isn't clean and the vegetables are washed in water?" Jada asked. "Exactly, that's what I read. As long as we stick to eating cooked foods, we should be right. I'm not big on veggies anyway." Okay, thanks guys, I'll see you next week. I'm feeling a little tired of being quite sick, dehydration. So continue with chapter 5 next week. Thanks, bye.